now, and you can't even buy a lot of the older whiskies. Even in Japan, where they make the whiskey, you can't buy it. Look, if I was a Japanese person who loved my Yamazaki or my Hibiki or whatever it might be, I'd be pretty disappointed myself if I went back and, you couldn't get it. Even like bars and things like that get like it's rationed, so they might get one bottle of Yamazaki 18 every 3 months, and then that's it. That's all they get. So that's a little bit sad. But they've obviously been doing things to try and change up how that works. So if you don't know Suntory make or have 3 distilleries in Japan. They have the Yamazaki distillery. They have the Hakushu distillery. The Yamazaki sort of, if you know Japan at all, it's around Osaka. Hakushu is kind of more in the middle of the country. It's a little bit hard to get to. And they're both malt distilleries. And Cheetah is on the ocean. It's a grain distillery. So, yeah, all the boys are here, Fusion Bra. It's great to have everyone in. Simon Gamer, thank you for the follow. And Inferno, came in with a raise the glass. Look, I don't know what to do with my sub points, guys and girls, but we're just here. I like my emotes, and we got to give them a bell. And hang on, I don't even know how to go through these all at the same time. Also, big thanks to Mel for coming in with making these great emotes. I mean, look at this. It's for a relaxing time. Make it Suntory time. Oh, it's your partner manager, Rob. You've got to behave, mate, in here. No more BMing me, please, okay? Otherwise, Inferno will know. Look at all these raise the glasses. Oh, cheers. I'll raise a glass to that. Level 1 hype trainer mode. Fantastic. Thank you very much. It's a miracle. Never had a hype train before. A Le Mondor. I'm not even subbed on this one. That's the worst thing, Rob. I can't even spam Le Mondor in this chat. So, it's okay. Anyway, yeah, Suntory. This is the most popular whiskey in Japan. I would call it Suntory Kakubin. Rob CD would say that's awful way to say a Japanese word, and he would say it's more like Kakubin. I believe it means square bottle or something like that. It's a blended whiskey, the most popular whiskey in Japan, and part of the reason why Suntory does so well and has the most popular whiskey in Japan is because they sell it in cans with soda water. So if you walk into a 7-Eleven or a Family Mart or any sort of... there you go. There you go. Jess has the knowledge. See, I don't know how to say it. I say Kakubin. I'm pretty sure it's Kakubin. But look, my pronunciation of Japanese words is definitely not on par. Anyway, it means square bottle. There you go. So I'm not sure if it means that the bottle's square, or you can see that these little things are... it's like a turtle shell, essentially, is the design. Anyway, these are like 15 USD for a bottle just like this in a 7-Eleven in Japan. When you could get these in Australia, they were like 40 to 50 bucks a bottle. You can't even get them in Oz anymore because Suntory does not sell them outside of Japan, pretty much. They've replaced them. Anyway, the point of this is that it's a pretty average whiskey that you should mix with soda water. And they do so en masse, and they sell it in cans. You go and you pay like $1.90 US, and you walk around with like a 9% 500ml can of whiskey and soda, and it's pretty good. Anyway, this is a blended whiskey, so I think part of tonight it's going to be pretty broad, I think. Again, if it's boring, let me know, because I'm just trying to start at the start whilst talking Suntory and do not want poor MJ to finish that bottle. It's a very lovely present, Sebi. So I would want to make it last. Oh, look at this. He's got the picture. It is a very lovely bottle. It's Master Select. So yeah, that's like your the one that you would get from duty free. So very, very cool. Anyway, so what I might do is, let's see if I can get this to work. And again, if this is boring, let me know. But we're gonna chit chat about Suntory, which is actually, if you go down a few levels, Beam Suntory. The Beam name you probably know from Jim Beam. They own it. Suntory bought out Jim Beam. They own a bunch of distilleries all around the world. I think they pretty much realized, hey, we're running out of Japanese whiskey. There is only so much we can make. So they went out and they started buying other distilleries. Yeah, there's a bunch in here. There's Bowmore in here. There's Lafroig. These are Irish whiskey here. These ones, can you see that? Yep, Scotch whiskey. Yamazaki, Hakushu, Cheetah. So these are the three distilleries. We're going from left to right. Yamazaki, Grain Distillery, Hakushu, Yamazaki, Malt Distillery. Cheetah is your grain distillery. It's a little bit different. Jim Beam, obviously you're talking about American type of whiskey. Maker's Mark, Canadian Club. So who would have known? Can I make you a highball? Have I made you a highball before? We had that one cool party, Laura. Yeah, they do. Yeah, Nick. They own all these brands. So who would have thought? Yeah. Kind of weird when you think about it. And how would you know? Unless you know, I suppose. But they do. So, but tonight we're going to talk about the Suntory part of Beam Suntory. Yeah, Maker's Mark, it is what it is. Like, you're all looking for different things, and it's not that expensive either. And a lot of people definitely like it. It's not for me, but this is Hibiki 21, and I kind of feel, and some people might disagree, but I kind of feel like this is when Japanese whiskey really started taking off, right? It won, I think, in like 2013, World's Best Blended Whiskey, and we can chat about what a blend is in a sec, but it's very, very good. All the Hibiki bottles are great, but obviously the 21's not that bad, right? So, yeah. And here's a beautiful picture. This is my girlfriend in Japan. Not really. But you can see here, this is the sort of marketing. You'll see Kakubin, bottle. And there you go. Suntory highballs. This is what they do with it. So this is why Suntory Kakubin, most popular whiskey in Japan. Because they put it into cans and you buy it either at 7% or 9%. But it's a blended whiskey and it's great in soda water. You probably wouldn't drink it otherwise. So anyway, we'll see. You know, you can't even buy it in Australia. It's pretty disappointing. It's probably my favorite thing to go buy at a 7-Eleven. You know, instead of a beer, right? So if you're going out, you know, going around someone's house, you're probably not necessarily taking a bottle of whiskey with you. You might take a 6-pack or a carton or something of beer because it's convenient, right? You chuck it in the fridge, you crack one open, you have a drink. This is what's missing in Australia, in my opinion, guys, right? When you look at this, it's pretty disappointing. If you want to go buy whiskey in a can with soda in Australia, firstly, you're going to pay an arm and a leg because it's a premix and they just charge insane tax on it. Secondly, you can't get one that hasn't got some sort of cola or ginger ale or something disappointing in it. So, what a world. Definitely not what I'm keen for. So, yeah, it's a little bit sad. Maybe we'll get it in Australia one day, but probably not. Effie, raise a glass to you, sir. I'm only sipping on this. Trying to be responsible. Yeah, Hibiki is super sweet, MJ, and there's a reason for that. Because it's a blended whiskey, right? And we're going to get into that in a second. So, if we talk about Yamazaki and we talk about what you would traditionally see from Suntory, yeah, the Isla whiskies, dude, are very, very different. So it can be tough to go back. But if you look at what they've got, so again, Suntory, 3 distilleries in Japan. This is Hakushu. You can see very beautiful. It's in the middle of Japan. It's out in amongst the mountains. You can probably see Fuji from somewhere near it. Look at this. Beautiful tree tops. It's in a bird sanctuary. It's very nice. Very long way to get there. It's beautiful. Perfect for making whiskey. Absolutely amazing. And Hakushu is probably my favorite Japanese whiskey. if look at this. This is there's the distillery. There's like a gift shop type thing. It's all really nice. It's all very beautiful. All right. That's one of their malt distilleries. There you go. Look at that in the mountains. This is where it is. It's like up here in the mountains somewhere. It's like a 10 minutes from the train station. Very pretty. Now, if you go to Yamazaki, again, halfway between Osaka and Kyoto, two super popular destinations for tourists in Japan. It's a little bit warmer, easier to get to, still very lovely. This is me. Look at this standing outside an old still at the Yamazaki. Just 3-0 to dark for those wanting. Yeah, look, I do love GSL myself. Yeah, so again, look, this is probably not as beautiful necessarily as look. That's a pretty nice picture, but overall not as beautiful perhaps as Hakushu, but still quite a lovely place to go. Look at this. It's kind of in the mountains. There's trees. It's nice and cool. It's pretty good to get there. They've got the Suntory Whiskey House, which is a great little shop to go to in Osaka and in Tokyo as well. Very beautiful. You can go and buy furniture made out of oak barrels. You know, what more could you want? It's very lovely. Great food, great whiskey. You can try it. And then they have Cheetah, which is a grain distillery. And you look at this picture. This is the photo that if you went to Suntory's website and you clicked on Cheetah and you're like, oh, let's go. What is Cheetah like? Where does the grain whiskey come from? Looks very beautiful. Over the ocean. You know, what more could you want? And then this is it. So grain distilleries are very much probably not as beautiful as malt distilleries. I didn't take this particular picture because I don't even think that you can go and visit Cheetah. Obviously for these reasons, because it's just not that good to look at. But it does make grain whiskey. So this is kind of the point. This is a terrific photo that either I took or Mel took at Yamazaki when I was lucky enough to go on a tour there a couple of years ago. And this is kind of the point, right? And again, I'm sure most of you know this, but let's have a quick chat about how we got here. So if you go, you hear a lot of people talk about single malts, right? Single malt whiskey. So a single malt whiskey is malted barley turned into whiskey that's from one distillery. So Yamazaki, for example, is a malt distillery. They take malted barley, they put it into big tubs, and then they put it into stills, and they turn it into alcohol. They put that in barrels, and then they make a whiskey of all of the different barrels that they've got there, and that's Yamazaki single malt. Blended whiskey is when you take that same malt, but then you blend it with grain whiskey. So for the single malts, for Suntory, you have something like Yamazaki or Hakushu, whilst Hibiki is a blended whiskey. But they're not all the same thing, I suppose, because you can even see here. Where's my Hibiki? This is a bottle here. The Kakubin is a bottle of in Japan $15, in Australia $40 if you could get it whiskey. Well, this one, the Hibiki 17, it could be $700 now if you could find it. So obviously very, very different in the way that they make it, but that's sort of the main point. So most of your Johnny Walkers and things like that, they're all blended whiskey. They're not even blended whiskey from the same distilleries. They take a lot of whiskey from a bunch of different distilleries around Scotland, and they mix them all together, put them into barrels, and then they sell them. And I know people give it a hard time, but I actually think it's not that bad, to be honest. I actually think it's not that bad. So Suntory actually makes a ton of blended whiskey. So we talked about this one earlier. This is a blended whiskey. This is the most popular whiskey in Japan. It's okay with a bit of soda water. What else have we got here? This is Cheetah. I'll go back to this screen so you can see it. This is Cheetah. So this is from the Cheetah distillery, but this is what they call a single grain whiskey. So it's grain whiskey only from that distillery. So when you talk about grain, it's actually normally corn. And a lot of bourbon is made of corn. So single malt whiskey, normally made of malted barley, and a lot of bourbons and grain whiskies are made with corn. So, obviously, entirely different ingredients to begin with. And you kind of, I guess they obviously taste very different. There's a lot more to bourbon than just that. But it's a good starting point. And then we'll go back to that one in a sec. They also have this one. So this is, I feel like, what replaced Kakubin in Australia. This is called Toki or Toki. Someone who actually speaks Japanese can tell me. It's I believe it's Japanese for time, and it's a blended whiskey as well. So you can't even get this in Japan, even though it's made in Japan. And it's kind of like a replacement for the Kakubin. So because this is popular in Japan, I think they were kind of starting to run out of it. They stopped selling it overseas. They started selling this overseas instead. And to be honest, this is much better. Yeah, this is Mel's favorite whiskey. And it's really good. Both of these here, you would put them in a highball. And if you don't drink highballs, I would say they're probably my favorite way to... going to retweet Elson here. Look at him coming out there. It's probably my favorite way, to be honest, to drink a lot of whiskeys. Like, it's very easy to think, well, people say maybe you shouldn't put whiskey on ice, maybe you shouldn't mix whiskey with whatever. But a bunch of whiskeys are designed to be mixed with soda water, and these two whiskeys are designed to be mixed with soda. And it ends up being kind of like, I'm not going to say like a beer, because obviously it doesn't taste anything like a beer, but it's refreshing, and there's a lot of it, and you can drink it a little bit slower. You know, it's all the things that you kind of want. It lasts a little bit longer, perhaps, because you're putting it with ice and soda water. And it's just really nice. So, I'm a big fan. Great way to start the night. And you shouldn't underestimate. If you're not drinking highballs, you should get into it, because it's a very good way to enjoy your whiskey lifetimes. So, if I go back to this one, when we go back to this picture here and we talk about all of these distilleries that Suntory owns as part of Beam Suntory, you get to this, which is a new whiskey that they released, Suntory World Whiskey. Again, the shorter O's Toki. But it's got the character for season on it. Yeah, okay. Look, I think that's kind of the play, that it's supposed to kind of be both, right? This is the real one I need your support on. Because I would call this AO. It's AO, and that's your character there. I believe it means water. Does it mean water? I'm not 100%. AO. Like that? AO. AO. I'll deal with this later. But look, it's an A and an O together, and it doesn't really make sense. But this... Yeah, not quite. We can chat on this later, Jess, because I honestly don't know how to say it. Anyway, yeah, look, MJ, it's almost not worth buying in Australia, because you'll see it for like $300 or $400 a bottle when it's $50 a pop in Japan. But this is essentially a whiskey that is made of all of the whiskeys that they own around the world. So it's got like 5 sides to the bottle, because you can see the square is back. So the whole point is obviously that they import all of this whiskey into Japan, they put it into a barrel, and then they sell it, because it's much cheaper for them to get the whiskey from overseas than it is to make the Japanese whiskey, which is kind of expensive. I'd love to see you guys pronounce it. I honestly have no idea how to say it. Anyway, it's fine. You just got to drink it. You don't need to know how to say it. That's all that really matters. Anyway, let's go back to my great little diagram. So, again, this is it, right? So if you're talking single malt, it's malted barley. They break it down. To malt barley essentially means to make it think that it's time to sprout, right? So barley's going to be full of starches, and you want to turn starch into sugar. Recons, thank you for the follow. Yeah, weave skills do come in handy for Japanese whiskey, that's for sure. So it's got all this stored energy inside it, and you want to turn the starch into sugar. So they put it in like hot water and literally put it on the ground. They leave it inside on the ground, and it sort of heats up, and you turn it over, and it starts turning the starches in the barley into sugar. And at a point, like, because obviously the seed needs the sugars to start sprouting and to turn into a new plant. And at a point, they go, all right, that's enough. They take it out and they dry it. And you stop the malting process. So that's essentially what malted barley is. You get it, you grind it up, and then you put it into one of these. So these are like giant timber washbacks, right? So I don't know if this is from Hakushu or from Yamazaki, but that's the process. So you've taken this malted barley, you grind it up almost into like a powder, and you put it into these fermentation washbacks. You put yeast in it, which obviously starts working through the sugar, and it starts producing alcohol. So sounds lame, but this is the process for making malt whiskey. So here's some more pictures, fermentation tanks, lots of people standing in front taking photos, very exciting. Here's some more. These ones look a little bit different, but if you look in here, there's lots of bubbles. If you were to peer in through, you see that there's heaps of gases being created and things like that. And it's essentially just coming out and creating alcohol. But it's not enough alcohol. It's like 10% or something, which is obviously not enough for whiskey. Maybe if you're making beers, you can start there. Yeah, right. Actually knowing Japanese, I'll take that too. Maybe one day. So you take it, and you want to get more whiskey, more alcohol out of this concoction that is like less than 10%. So you distill it. You put it into these giant copper stills, right? And you heat it up. And the shape of the still and how you run it all change the taste of the whiskey. So overseas, maybe in Scotland, they might have a lot of similar sorts of stills, and maybe they sort of trade whiskey with each other. So they might go to a different distillery. If you're making a blend or something, you might borrow some of their whiskey with the different flavor to try and make something a little bit cool. But in Japan, they don't necessarily share amongst each other. Nikka and Suntory probably aren't sharing whiskeys to make different batches. So instead, they have to go and create them themselves. So they go out and they make all these different stills, and you can kind of see it here, right? They've all kind of got different shapes at the top. So they actually produce slightly different flavors of whiskey. Or it's an interesting way to do it. But essentially, they think that if you can come out with all these different flavors, then it gives you a better option to make something cool. And I guess it works. So you've distilled it. I think they distill it twice. There's first distillation, second distillation, and you chuck it in barrels. And that's all. It's half the process done. And then you leave it in barrels for a long time. These ones here got like a clear front of them. You can sort of see what the whiskey looks like in the barrel. But the sad thing is that you actually lose whiskey over time. It seeps out of the barrel. And it depends on your climate. In Australia, it's quite a lot. Whiskey matures very quickly in Australia because it's hotter. If it's somewhere cold, it's a little bit slower. Then the whiskey matures much more slowly in the barrel. But that's what they do. So that's why it's so expensive, right? If you think about it, they literally have to make all this alcohol, chuck it in barrels, and then leave it there for minimum 3 years for Scotch. But, if you're talking 17-year Hibiki, that's a minimum of 17 years. And then to make a whiskey, it's not just... Well, you could just take it out of a barrel. And there are definitely plenty of whiskeys that are just single casks, which is literally whiskey from a cask. Single cask strength. You go and you take whiskey from that cask, you put it in a bottle. Great stuff. But those are super expensive and inconsistent because there's no guarantee that if you make the exact same whiskey and put it in the exact same sort of barrel and you put it somewhere for the same amount of time, it's not guaranteed to taste the same. Which is, I guess, kind of frustrating, right? If you're actually making whiskey, it could be pretty frustrating to have to deal with that. So if you're trying to make something consistent, if if I go and buy a bottle of Yamazaki now, and I go and buy a bottle of Yamazaki in 10 years' time, or even 2 years' time, ideally, you want those bottles to kind of taste the same. And if it was literally just you take whiskey from a barrel and you put it in a bottle, then that's going to be inconsistent over time. So what they actually do, this is a great photo of me, thanks Mel. This is, they take whiskeys from all these different types of barrels, and they mix them together. So it's still a single malt whiskey. A single malt whiskey could just be, and most often is, a whiskey from the same distillery, but it could consist of any number of barrels of whiskey mixed together in different compositions. With the whole point, right, being that you want it to try and taste the same over time, because people expect it to taste the same. If you compare 2 bottles of whiskey, a couple of years apart, ideally you want those to be very similar. So, you can see here, they all look very different. Depends on, the length they've been inside a barrel, the type of barrel that they've been in, all those sorts of things. The weather, how long, is it in a cold part of the distillery where the barrel sat? Is it high or low in the rack? And you can look at another great photo of me. You can see here, Hibiki, which is one of the 2 whiskeys we're talking about tonight. You can see they literally go, this is going to ruin the photo, but I'm going to do it anyway. They literally go and they pick all these different whiskeys and they blend them together. So some of them will be grain and some of them will be malt, and they pick them all out, and the professional guys mix them together, and they'll probably put them back in a barrel and leave it to marry it all together a bit, and then that's what you get in the end. So most of the time it's not just a barrel to a bottle, it's all sort of combined together. So this great photo here is this is from Yamazaki. So if you go to a whiskey tasting at a distillery, quite often what they'll do is they'll give you a few different whiskeys that like the composite parts of what goes into what you drink. So they've got, I don't know if you can read it here, but this says white oak cask malt whiskey. This says sherry cask malt whiskey. And this says Mizunara cask malt whiskey. So what they're saying is that these are 3 of the barrel types that go into Yamazaki whiskey. So most whiskeys actually are made with American oak barrels. So if you go and buy a bottle of bourbon, to be bourbon, there's a lot of things that are required by law to make something bourbon. But Arctic Wolf, thank you for the follow, sir. It's a lot of things that go into making something bourbon, but one of the things, and it's crazy when you think about it, is that it has to be a first fill barrel. So you literally have to take an American oak barrel, I think they char it, and you can only put whiskey in it once. And that's it. And then you age the whiskey, and then when it's done, you can't use that barrel anymore for bourbon. For a lot of other whiskeys, they will over time reuse the same barrels. You swap them through. You'll see, even in Australia, there'll be like even red wine cask barrels. So Starwood makes a great red wine cask single malt whiskey where they take barrels that used to have red wine in them. They put whiskey into that, and then obviously they make something out of it. The Real Go-Go Gadget in the chat, all the way from Perth. I didn't even know that you could connect this far, Alex, but it's great to have you here. So all these things go into it. So for the Yamazaki whiskey, they have a white oak, like an American oak. They have sherry cask. They have Mizunara, which is like that Japanese oak. And they take all these different barrels of essentially very similar new make whiskey. So the whiskey that comes out of the stills, probably a little bit different based on what the stills look like and how they're designed and whatnot. But essentially very similar. And you put those into the barrels, and then what comes out the other side is what you mix together to give you your whiskey, even for like your single malt. So there's a whole process to it. It actually requires people who can taste things. That's not me. I can taste things very poorly, which kind of sucks for someone that's pretty big on the whiskey times. But you got to do what you got to do And then you get to these. So the older they get, normally the better they taste. But that's not necessarily the truth. From what I hear, if you put whiskey in a barrel, it sort of has like peaks and troughs through the seasons, right? So you might have, for example, a 17-year-old barrel of something that's going to go into Hibiki, and you'll try it and it will taste great. And then 6 months later, you try it again and it won't taste as good. And you need to wait for it to sort of to come back. Yeah, I want to spam that one too. That's my favorite emote. I don't even know how to find it. There we go. Where is it? I have so many emotes. There we go. Boom. This is a great emote, Mel. Thank you very much. Yeah, so, you know, there's a lot to it. And even in something like this Hibiki 30, right, which is, I don't even know where you'd find a bottle of this. It's thousands of dollars and way too tough to get. But it's minimum 30 years. So there could be whiskeys in there way older. There's plenty of stories where distilleries were going through times where maybe they weren't selling as much and they would sell something that might be 18 years as a 12-year whiskey because they're just trying to offload their stock, and then a few years down the track you get there and all of a sudden you're missing all your great whiskies that now you want to sell. Army Burbs, hello, thank you. Good to see you. It's good to have everyone in here. If you have questions, I know I'm just sort of blabbering about whiskey, and hopefully as I do more of these we can kind of find a better rhythm, but I thought maybe for tonight we could at least start on you know, this sort of history. So if we talk about that and we talk about the three distilleries that they have: Cheetah, which we saw, Akishu, which we saw, and Yamazaki, which we saw. And then you take the whiskies that they go into these, and that's what get blended together to make a blend. So like Hibiki 17, or your Toki, Oki, sorry Jess, your Kakubin, and this one's a little bit weird, as we said, because this is like whiskies from around the world. So that's a bit of a different story. That one's definitely a tougher one, but yeah. So when you look at like the two that we said that we were going to talk about tonight, so I might put these away so I don't knock them over. If you guys have questions, let me know, because I'm just out here spamming stuff. What do we got? Is anyone sharing what they're making? This is let's have a look. I don't know if you guys can see this one. So this is MJ's Hibiki Japanese Harmony Masters Select. So Masters Select is a particular blend of your Hibiki that's only sold at duty free. Look at that cool design on the bottle. Pretty good. Learn all about the ideals of Japanese whiskey making. Cool little bottle design. And if I click on that, look at that. What a sick bottle. That's so nice. If I move this over here, does that look better? There you go. That's a cool present that he's got there. I think the whiskey tastes the same as mine though. This is my Master Select that I'm going to drink in a little bit, but you can even I'm not sure how well you can see this on camera, but even here for me, these are two very different colors. Maybe you can't pick up the difference necessarily, but in real life, the 17 is probably about twice as dark as this one here. So these ones, the Master Select, don't come with an age on it. It's a no age statement, which is some whiskey people hate the idea of a no age statement, but it's definitely a cheaper way to start putting out whiskey for distilleries. Oh, this is a special occasion. Oh, Oranga in here as well. You've got one as well, so well, I'll encourage you then to crack it open. This is my second bottle of Master Select. And if you're looking at whiskey glasses, this is like a snifter, I suppose. So this is something that you wouldn't put ice in or anything. You should definitely taste. So I think now's the time. If you have a bottle of anything, but particularly if you have a bottle of Hibiki and you are waiting to try it, I would definitely crack it out now. This is my must. Like, as you can see, I'm kind of a bit over halfway through this bottle. Got it from duty free. They were like $120 when I bought them, which is not that bad. Like, I don't even know how old the whiskey is, but it's pretty good. But it's a mixture. It's a mixture of whiskeys from all three of the Suntory distilleries, and I guess that's the point, right, of what we're chatting on here, is that you can go out and you can buy something like Yamazaki or Hakushu, and it's going to be whiskey just from that distillery, and they made it all there, and that's where the malt was. To be fair, they probably malt the barley somewhere else, but past that point, you know, that's where they ground it up, put it in a thing, turned it into alcohol, put it in a still, put it in a barrel, and then that's where we are. So I'm going to crack this. I'm not very good at telling you what a whiskey smells or tastes like, though. It is very sweet, isn't it? Arunga says, I have a mate who has been going through many different spirits and lots of whiskey. You can check out his stuff. He loves it. I'm very keen. Yeah. Well, put it on my Twitter. Link me. Thank you, though. Look, it's, you know, we're just having some fun. We're just having some fun here, so I thought we'd give it a bell. But yeah, crack your Master Select. It's very sweet. It's very sweet. I'm going to put it into this glass. So they said it's called, some people might call it a snifter. I don't know if it's got a proper name when it's like this one. This is similar to like a Glencairn glass, which is a glass that you can literally go and buy at Dan Murphy's for like $10 a pop. Yeah, there's no smoke, no peat. When you think about what they have to work with, right? When we know that this whiskey is made from Yamazaki, from Cheetah Grain, and from Hakushu, it's mainly, I believe, made of the first two. So out of all of Yamazaki's distilleries, the only one that really works with peated whiskey is Hakushu. And if you try this, you'll note that there's very little peat in this. And if you're wondering what peat is, it's not peat do. It's the stuff that you grab out of the ground. They burn it, and the whole point, right, is that in the process of stopping the malting, so when you take the barley, you heat it up, put it in some water, you put it on the ground, starts sprouting, starts turning those starches into sugars. To stop it, you put it over like a kiln type thing when the heat rises up and it dries out and it stops the process. But if you power that fire with blocks of peat, like the stuff that you dig out of the ground in Scotland, then it has that really smoky sort of sea salt taste, because a lot of that is like foliage that was under the sea back in the day, and it's this really thick brick that just burns for ages. So it gets really smoky, and all of like those Isla whiskies that you drink, like your Ardbeg and your Lafroig and your Lagavulin, those are all going to be super peaty, not Cooper peaty, super peaty, because of that. So Suntory does import peated malt across for Hakushu. So the whole point of this glass, right, is that it's designed kind of like a wine glass, right, so where it's angled, and you can kind of smell at the top. Yeah, it is very light. It's definitely designed to be super easy to drink, MJ. That's kind of the point, right? And even at this point, even the Master Select, which it doesn't tell you how old it is, which obviously means that it's not as old as some of the others, still really easy to drink. I'm not going to pretend to be able to tell you what it smells like, but I do have this book called Forge. MJ's whiskey is the same as this one. The same as this one. It's the Hibiki Master Select, but his is a cooler bottle. So this is a book by Brian Ashcraft, he lives in Japan. This is sort of the first thing that I bought to learn about Japanese whiskey. If you want one, there's a link to buy one on my page. You should get it. This thing I don't get anything for. I just really like it. Anyway, the point is, I'm pretty sure they're tasting notes for Suntory whiskeys in here. So I'm just going to see what it says for Hibiki. Let's see what it starts. So, Hibiki Japanese Harmony, which is not... So this is Japanese Harmony, but Master Select. Though I would say they're very similar. So this is not me because I don't know anything about what whiskey's supposed to smell or taste like. I just drink what I like. But this says the first note smells like fresh ink from a fountain pen. Does it? I guess there's like... Okay. Yeah, but I want one of your bottles. I want one of... I think for me, MJ, it's the alcohol. The alcohol content that you can smell. That to me, I guess I could get as ink. Fresh ink from a fountain pen, followed by honeyed wood aromas from the cask. The delivery is astonishingly soft, covering the mouth in what feels like flowing silk. For such a humble boutique, the texture of this whiskey is a gourmet meal. Even though the whiskey offers an uncommon experience, it does lack complexity. So there you go. Yeah. And for a lot of these, you can sort of taste the timber in it, even, as well. It's very easy to drink. Definitely not as easy to drink as if you had a 17 or a 21 or a 30 or something crazy. But considering you can barely get those anymore, what does it even matter, right? What does it even matter? So that's one of them. So this is the blended whiskey. It's a mixture of all of Suntory's Japanese distilleries in one. And it's really good. And it's one of the first that I bought. Oh, look at this. Can we see this? How do I go back to that? There you go. Look at this. Arunga coming out, cracking his Japanese Harmony Mastered Select as well. Look at us all coming through with the duty-free goods. Duty-free only. Thanks, Arunga. I'm glad we're all getting to try this. I'm glad I picked this first, because I don't know what everyone owns. So, in the middle of MasterChef we are. Who even knows? I don't even watch MasterChef. I heard that guy got kicked out for doing the wrong thing. Anyway. So, this is nice whiskey, and if you're you can still find it at Dan's. The Japanese Harmony. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. It's not that bad. I watch Lego Masters myself. That's about as much as I'll get baited into. It's a nice whiskey. So, if you find yourself looking for a Japanese whiskey, you definitely probably can't go wrong buying a bottle of Hibiki from Dan's, if you can find it. They get them from time to time. Just don't get baited into like a 12-year or a 17-year or whatever. The other whiskey that we spoke about tonight is the Yamazaki. So, again, this one, if you buy a bottle of this, you'll see either one that's called Yamazaki Distiller's Reserve, which hopefully you can get for like $120 to $150 a bottle. It's probably not worth any of that at all. Doesn't tell you how old the whiskey is, but pretty much what you can get. These, the 12, used to be about $170 a pop. Now in Australia, again, Dan Murphy's had it for like $370 the other day, which is insane. You would just look, if you make a lot of money, buy what you want. But if you're trying to not spend too much, I wouldn't pick that up for that. But I'm gonna crack this one too. I've lost the top. The screw top bottle. Though, to be honest, I don't mind a screw top bottle these days. Probably better than cork. Plus, it doesn't break. The amount of time a cork breaks. This is quite sweet as well, but definitely not as sweet as what you get from the Hibiki. Oh, look at that one. Rise Roku, thank you for the subscription. I hope you enjoy your emotes. I really appreciate the support. This is the most subs this channel has had. It is 8 years old, and we've never had this many subs before. So very exciting. Real question is, can I find the lid to my Yamazaki? The answer is not right now. Anyway, we'll come back to that later. So, the whole purpose of these glasses, right, is that theoretically it kind of takes the scent of the whiskey and it directs it to your nose. If you were a pro whiskey taster, which I'm not, they would say that you should actually try and kind of like heat up the whiskey, which is funny because a lot of time you'll drink whiskey with ice. But thanks, man. I appreciate it. Like, this is, I don't know what I'm doing here. Obviously, I talk about esports all the time. I tweet about whiskey all the time. So this is a hopeful combination of both. So we'll see. Yeah, I know it looks silly, but that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to heat up the whiskey with your hand to get up to kind of like your room temperature. Probably more relevant in winter. Probably more relevant in Melbourne. Probably most relevant in Scotland, right? In the winter, you have a bottle of whiskey on the shelf and it's like 5 degrees in your house or something, I don't know. If you're sitting in Queensland in summer, you probably don't need to hold your whiskey to warm it up to be able to smell what it smells like better, because it's probably already warmer than you are. So this one obviously very different. Yamazaki Hibiki single malt whiskey, only whiskey from Yamazaki made. There's some sherry casks in there. There's like American oak in there. Apparently there's that Mizunara, which is like the Japanese white oak, which is apparently very expensive. It's hard to make barrels from it. The whiskey leaks from it. It's actually probably not a very good wood to make whiskey barrels from it all, but, you know, it has that really sweet flavor. Whilst this, as we said, the Hibiki, it's made up of whiskey from the 3 distilleries of Chita, Akushu, Yamazaki, and they combine it together to make something cool. So definitely sweeter because it's got grain, it's got corn in it. This only has malted barley and water. Yeah, look, I don't know. Is that the full package? I'm not sure. Those are the two things that I know, and I probably know whiskey better than esports. So anyway, I'll find. What does this say about Yamazaki? Because I don't know what it's supposed to actually taste like. Again, because I am not very good at telling you what things taste like. It is not my talent. I just know what I like. Alright, so these are all rated out of 100, by the way. So the Hibiki Japanese Harmony, which is pretty much what this is, what that is, has 86 out of 100. And the Yamazaki Single Malt 12 has 83 out of 100. So theoretically, applied with my... And I can cook. I don't think you do, Roku. I don't think you need anything other than those two things. Yeah. I'll have a look at his Instagram in a bit, Aranga, because that's cool. Because I like whiskey Instagram. So this says... this whiskey had a successful series of commercials during the 90s featuring images of red maple leaves, pink cherry blossoms, and bamboo thickets. Right, so the whole point was that this was like a Japanese whiskey. The whole point of Yamazaki was supposed to be, this is a traditional Japanese taste. This is what a single malt. And I think that Yamazaki was actually the first whiskey distillery in Japan, if I'm not wrong. Certainly the first single malt whiskey distillery. It says charred and honey oaked notes, grassy field after rain, gentle smoke, smooth, lovely texture, followed up with wonderful spicy finish. And that's why I read them from a book instead of giving you my own tasty notes, because I honestly have no clue. I find that the only way that I can actually tell, really, obviously I know things taste different, but to be able to differentiate, I almost feel like you need, something that says, this thing here tastes like X. And then you taste the whiskey, and you can taste whatever that was in the whiskey. So if you line up a bunch of whiskeys together, and particularly whiskeys from the same distillery, you can then, it is easier to taste the difference if they have a bunch of different expressions, and you can probably go through and you compare like an American oak ex-bourbon cask, so a cask of American oak that's come across that used to have bourbon whiskey in it, and then they've gone and put malt whiskey in it, and you can taste that, and then you can compare a bunch of different whiskeys all from the same distillery, and you can taste that cask in it. and then you compare it to one that might have like a sherry cask. Obviously, that's very different, or European oak, or whatever it might be. So, for me, it's more about like if I have them side by side, I can really tell the difference, and I can pick out what the different parts are. But if you just give me a whiskey, short of it, you know, I'll be able to tell you what I like in bits and pieces, but not to the degree that these crazy cool kids come out and you're changing back. Yeah, I'm not. This is like my third channel name. Third channel name. Yeah. So, yeah. Welcome to my world. It's the same thing. What did Arunga link us this? Where did you send it to me? Because I want to take a look. Let me have a look. Did you DM it to me on this one? No. It's just on the Twitter, in the reply to your tweet. Let me have a look, because I would love to see where we at. I think my notifications are cooked, to be honest. Where's yours? There's yours, and then, oh, you, because I'm not tagged in it for some reason. Let's, how do I get to this? Let's go back to this one. These are some cool, this is a cool collection. And Jaffles. I love Jaffles, by the way. A complete guide to Japanese drinks. Yeah, that's me. Hello? There we go. Thanks. A complete guide to Japanese drinks. That looks cool. What else have we got in here? So he's got like, is this like a microbrewery or something? That's pretty cool. Distillers, brewing, 4 pillars. Bunch of photos from different breweries and things like that. I love beer, but I'm not good at craft beers. I'm not good at craft beers because they're all very, almost too hoppy for me. Which is weird. I understand that's kind of like the thing, right, for craft beers. But I just don't enjoy them as much. The old craft beers, whatever that may be. Which is a shame because they're super popular in Australia. And I'm sure we've got a lot of great breweries, right, these days. But not... I guess it's just not my thing. I don't know. Anyway, so almost finished. This was Black Label, by the way. With a giant ice cube in it. Yeah, look, if you compare these two together, I probably do prefer Yamazaki to Hibiki. I think just the malt, I just don't like grain whiskey as much, which is why it's almost a little too sweet, right? And MJ, you were saying earlier, like, particularly if you compare like your peated single malts to what you get there, obviously very, very different to what a lot of the Japanese distilleries put out. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I guess that's my sort of thing. So, that's kind of like, oh, Elfish Guy's in here. Yeah, it is kind of like a soft whiskey, and it's kind of raise a glass to Elfish Guy. Cheers, Elfish Guy. What do you even look at all your lodge points you've got. Yeah, no dare in here, buddy. No, it's not you cheers and I drink. It's not how it works. Sorry. But you know, I hope you're drinking. You're casting tonight, right? There is no Elfish Guy picture going on this set. There is no Elfish Guy. Tomorrow night casting, right? Tomorrow night you're casting. Okay, that makes more sense. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to tonight, right? Just get us started on maybe a little bit what is the difference between a blend and a single malt, and obviously we've got a blend and a single malt. Obviously you can't taste these and compare them, but hopefully you can get a chance to try you know, something with some grain in it at some point and compare it to something that's literally just malt whiskey. And that's pretty much it. So I don't know, is there anything else we wanted to talk about? I'm not sure what the content should be. I just wanted to chit chat about whiskey and have an excuse to make this thing. Other than that, I'm happy. I'm just going to sit here and chat about whiskey for the next hour. But that's the end of the lesson. So no, I'll move this so that I can actually use it. I have a photo of my one true love and it is not Elfish Guy. This is the stills at Hakushu Distillery. My one true love. Sorry, Mel. If you could produce whiskey as well as they do, then maybe you could be it. But alas, that's not what we've got. That's not what we've got. Please don't get mad. But yeah, so what is... I don't know, like obviously you're all in here. I know some of you are probably in here just to be nice to me, and I appreciate that. If, what sort of whiskey do you guys drink? I know MJ drinks Isla, which is probably one of my favorite types of whiskey as well. I'm a big Isla fan. That one I can actually pronounce. It's Islay, but you don't say the Y. Yeah, you don't. They own a bajillion distilleries. It's insane. So, big company. Just wish that Boss Coffee was a little bit cheaper in Australia, right? And that you could get both hot and cold Boss Coffee. That would be the dream for like $1. Well, that's good. I'm glad we learned a little bit about the whiskey. What did you... grew up drinking mainly Chivers and Johnny Walker. I actually think Johnny Walker, like I think one of the Chivers, like 18, got best blend in the Whiskey Bible last year, maybe. Best blend of a certain age, not best blend overall. But it's still $100 a pot, right? For the 18. Though some of the other ones are definitely cheaper. And I think Johnny Walker is actually totally underrated. I think Black Label is great, and you can get it for like $40 for a bottle. Makes great highballs. It's good on ice. Green Label is really good to drink neat. They're like, you can get it for $70. Richard, who was in here earlier, as I said, got me on to Green Label. And the funny thing, right, is that even though most of what Johnny Walker makes are blends, so just like the Hibiki, but cheaper, they make blended whiskey with a bunch of different grains and malt whiskeys from a ton of different distilleries, except the only difference is that the Green Label is what you would call like a blended malt. It is only malt whiskey. There is no grain in it. It's just from a bunch of different... Yeah, Green Label changed. Yeah, it was more smooth. And that's the problem, right? They discontinued Green Label, and then they brought it back. There's a bunch of people out there sitting on bottles of old Green Label that they want to sell because they thought that it was never going to exist anymore. So maybe you buy 4, 5, 10 bottles of Green Label because they say they're discontinuing it, and then like 3 years later they release it again, but it tastes kind of different. Yeah, I think Green Label is definitely the best of the standard range. Like, if you want to make highballs, maybe buy some Red Label. If you want to make better, peatier highballs, buy Black Label. If you want to drink something neat, buy Green Label. And if you buy Blue Label, do it for $170 and enjoy it because it's really nice, but it's not worth $250 a bottle. So, yeah, it's much better value for money than Blue Label is, because it's just... Blue Label's great, but it's just... I don't know, it's almost too easy to drink. It's almost just like you poured this thing, you know that it's cost you a lot of money, but it's so easy to drink that it's almost missing something. I don't even know how to say it. Apparently, there's a couple of, like, there's a few what you would call blended malts. So only malt whiskey, but made with malt whiskey from different distilleries. So you can't call it a single malt, but still no grain. Not that there's anything wrong with grain, but it's very sweet for my taste. Naked Grouse, I think, is one, and Monkey Shoulder. Monkey Shoulder is like $40-50 a bottle, and I think it's pretty popular among the greater whiskey community. You can go out and you buy yourself a cheap bottle of that, and people seem to enjoy it. Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah, I had blue at Crown Orunga, I think, because we had a huge bar tab that I had to use up. I have a bottle of blue that Mel bought me for Christmas once, I think, and I really like it. I just, again, I feel a pressure to drink it slowly because I don't want to waste it, but it's so easy to drink. Yeah, Monkey Shoulder's really good. It's cheaper than Green Label. I haven't compared them though, so I don't have a bottle of Monkey Shoulder. I've only had it when someone else has given it to me. So it is pretty good. You should try it. Hellier's Road is a tough one because I feel like there is some really good Hellier's Road, and there's also some that I don't enjoy as much. And for the price, I would probably buy something else personally. I'm a big, like, I've got a bottle of Hellier's Road, though to be fair, it is like the Whiskey Club exclusive, so maybe they just, it's really a taste. I can just taste the timber in it. Which is an odd thing to say, but I feel like I can just taste the barrel. I don't enjoy it as much, and there's a lot of other Australian whiskies that I really like. So yeah, I found it quite harsh as well, and I think that maybe some of like the more expensive bottlings of Hellier's Road could be quite good, but I haven't tried them. So I obviously you go to I don't own a bottle. You go to a bar, they're like $30 for a nip. I don't want to pay that for Hellier's Road at the moment. Particularly when there's a lot of really, really good Aussie distilleries, and we're quite lucky. And that's sort of, for me, I kind of started right on Japanese whiskey because that's sort of what I got into. Realized it's super expensive, even in Japan. Even if you had the money, it's hard to get, or you're trying to buy it like secondhand. And I don't really want to buy secondhand whiskey because half of it's fake. It's not an ideal way to go. And we've kind of sort of found our feet in Australia now as well. I think a lot of people know Sullivan's Cove. I think they win World's Best Single Malt or Single Cask Single Malt, I suspect. Like 5-7 years ago with their French oak. Though the thing that you need to kind of realize is that you'll often see such and such a whiskey won World's Best Whiskey at such and such a whiskey awards. There's a lot of whiskey awards, and when people talk about World's Best Whiskey, there's a lot of awards for World's Best Whiskey because they split them up into categories. So you might have World's Best Single Malt, World's Best Single Cask Single Malt, World's Best Blended Whiskey, World's Best Blended Whiskey 12 years and over, World Best Blended Whiskey 18 years and over, World's Best Single Cask Single Malt in the Southern Hemisphere. Like, you can really break them up into a lot of categories, right? So there's a lot of awards to win. Not that like it's prestigious thing to come out with, but I think they won World's Best Single Cask Single Malt, which is actually a very good award to win because, as we kind of alluded to earlier, it is tough to get a single cask of whiskey to that standard. And then when you do, you don't have very much of it. You have a cask worth, which is what? 250 bottles, depending on how old it is and what you started with. So there's not very many bottles of that around. So when they enter this competition, right, they go and they pick their best barrel and they pour out, 250 bottles. They send them off to the competitions and whatever. Comes back, Sullivan's Cove wins World Best Single Malt, and then you've got, 230 bottles left of that barrel. It's that one single barrel, single malt. And you might buy the same whiskey, the French oak, from the next barrel, and it may not be as good. Like, it's still going to be great, but it's not worth the same as the one that you bought. MJ says, what is your opinion of the lime burners? I actually really like lime burners. I think, MJ, did I bait you into getting a Darkest Winter at some point? Which is probably my favorite lime burners. Darkest Winter is, to me, it's one of their best. I think the lime burners peated whiskies are really good. I haven't tried. I think they've got a sherry cask and a port cask. Obviously, that's whiskey that's been put in a cask that used to have sherry or port in it, and the flavor obviously comes through. Those I hear are pretty good, but I would want to try the cask strength of those to really compare. The Darkest Winter is a peated Australian whiskey made in WA, and those are single cask strength. So they pick like their best peated casks, and they're actually amazing. So that's That's to me one of the best Aussie whiskies is Darkest Winter, and you can go and you compare. They do like a release once a year, and you can go and you buy a bottle, and you compare it to the previous years. I went with I baited the ESL boys into going to a Lime Burners whiskey tasting at Mjolnir. Oh, Oranga, thank you for the sub, my friend. I appreciate it. Look, the problem is it's very hard for me to actually find my emotes when I want to go and use them. You can enjoy for relaxing times. Emote, it's great. It's my favorite. Tipsy, yeah, man, you came late, but it's okay because there's a VOD, so you're welcome if you really want to go back and come through it. But yeah, as I was saying, we went to Mjolnir. It was a Lime Burners, Darkest Winter. They did like the full-on, like some really good food. But then they also had a bunch of Lime Burners whiskeys to try, including like 2 or 3 of the Darkest Winters. I was very lucky because old mate Brad Bowen came, and he doesn't really like whiskey, so I'm not sure what he thought he was going to enjoy. The food was good, I guess, but I drank his whiskey too, so I got very drunk. But you could like really tell the difference in the peat just year on year. Like this is this year's cask, this is last year's cask, and you just compare them with each other. Probably not going to be doing that. So how do I do it? There you go. Anyway, yeah, could have gotten famous. Alas, we're in here instead with like what 28 viewers. I'll take my 28. Alas, not famous, but there you go. Still talking about whiskey. Yeah, so it's cool because you could like literally compare the year on year, and that's kind of the problem, right? We're trying to sell single cask whiskies, and why, for something like a lot of your single malts, they will mix, 10, 20, whatever casks together to try and get a consistency, and that flavor that you expect to get every time you buy a bottle of the same whiskey next year, the year after that. They all taste very, very similar, because even if one part is inconsistent for that year's bottling, you don't necessarily notice it across. Oh, look at this guy. Wow. I've never been to Scotland, by the way, Lewis. I don't know if that was on my next holiday list. They actually, I think on Islay, right, which is obviously an island in Scotland, they have this crazy thing where people just turn up for a few days and they just go and they drink, and all the distilleries are open, and you can try all of these crazy releases that they might only have, not very many bottles of, and people just sort of pass out in the fields and stuff, and then get up the next morning and then keep drinking. And I really want to go, but I can't because the world's ending, which is why we're here. What I actually mean is I'm actually in Scotland right now. Can you tell? This is my Scottish lodge, or it could be my Japanese lodge. I'm not sure. Unknown possibility. You're from Scotland? That's cool. Are you a big Scotch drinker? I missed Boyle. What did Boyle say? I've been wanting to get into drinking neat whiskey. Always drink mixed for a long time, but want to experiment. What would you recommend drinking neat that isn't harsh? Money not an issue. It's tough because you kind of want to like find what your, where you sort of want to go with it, right? And without knowing what whiskeys you actually like, can be tough. So I think we were talking about Green Label and Monkey Shoulder before. Those are all pretty good and really easy to get started on. If you say money isn't an issue, I would probably myself go and get something like a Lark Classic cask. If you're based in Australia, that's probably what I would buy. They're like $150 a bottle, and I would say it's kind of like a quintessential Australian whiskey, really easy to drink, and kind of it tastes like what whiskey is supposed to taste like, I suppose. So if you Boyle, sorry I missed it before. If you're based in Australia, yeah, I would hit up a Lark Classic cask. Really easy and a good starting point to drink neat, and you can go, and say, hey, this is a bit sweet or whatever, and start trying things from there. But that's a good one. Well, if you're in Scotland, everything should be much cheaper over there as well. So there's so many good, obviously, scotches in Scotland. You're very spoiled for choice. So very, very fortunate there. I'm quite jealous. I would love to go on a tour of all the distilleries, right? The problem with going on a tour of distilleries is that you need to get from distillery to distillery. Less good if you are tasting all of the items available, right? So that's kind of the problem. You need to have a designated driver or go on a tour bus or something, which makes it more expensive. So I really want to make the effort to do Australia as well. I haven't been to any distilleries in Australia, which is pretty slack, but it was something I wanted to do this year. I want to go down to Tassie. I want to check out Sullivan's Cove. I want to check out Lark. There's an Aussie distillery called Bakery Hill, which has some great whiskeys as well. Yeah, it's it. Like, there are so many cool ones to go to Orunga. So again, the problem is, like, I could probably just go and drive around it and check them out, but then you have to get home. So I feel like either you need someone that doesn't want to drink to come with you, or you need to plan it out and sort of stay near each of them and then catch a taxi or something out, or whatever. I don't know. You need to look into it, I guess. But yeah. Bad Frankie. Is that it's Aussie Spirits and Jaffles. That's pretty good. I love Jaffles. I had a friend, and I don't think I'm stealing his idea because this was a long time ago. I had a housemate, should I say, who wanted to make a Jaffle bus. You know, like a Jaffle food truck. And he's like, I'm going to drive to the beach every morning, and I'm going to set up, and it's going to be called Surf and Jaffles, and I'm going to sell Jaffles to surfers when they come out of the water. I was like, that's a great idea. How many of them are carrying money? So I'm not sure if that took off or not. But yeah, that sounds good. I've obviously, when I'm in Melbourne, it's a bit of we do some GG Easy, and I get my Lefroy, and then we go to probably to Baxter's and have a drink there. But I know that there's plenty of good whiskey bars in Melbourne, and plus I know a lot of them get like good specials from Starwood as well, with Starwood being another great Aussie distillery, and they get a lot of cool drinks that maybe you don't get to try otherwise. What's the Face says, what about Nicker from the Barrel? How would you rate that now? Nicker from the Barrel is tip top. One of my favorite whiskeys. Used to be $60 a bottle for 500 mils. Now it's like $90 a bottle, which is kind of depressing. But it is a very good blended whiskey. Someone else, now that I see that, who else was talking about cracking something from Nika earlier? Forge, you said you got Nika Taketsura. I don't know how to say it. Taketsuru. 100. That's a really good one. Both the Nika distilleries are very good. So anything they produce, I very enjoy. Nika coffee grain yet to be cracked. It's coffee with the EY, by the way, MJ. Because coffee is a type of still. I don't know if you know that. It's a pro tip. I didn't know that as well. I was like, I don't really want this coffee whiskey. I like coffee. I like whiskey. And then I looked at it and I realized I was a moron. That happened to me in real life like a year ago. Coffee, not coffee. Yeah, the autocorrect is yeah, it's a type of still. It's like a column still. So it's how they make the grain, right? The grain whiskey, as opposed to like the copper stills that the single malt's made in. It's like it's just the straight up ones. Whereas I had a picture of them before. They're kind of like... kind of like that. As opposed to... that. Dash, come on, as you join the whiskey club, it's okay. I'll forgive you. I think the prize is only like... it's only like 50... You only get 50 mil. So it's not as good as it used to be. It used to be back in the day, if you signed up a friend to the whiskey club, you would get... you'd get like 3 times 200 ml bottles of something, and then you used to get 1 200 ml bottle of something, and now you get 50 mils, and the person who signs up gets 50 mils. So that's definitely not as good. Beast mode, Max. Hello, welcome to the lodge. We're talking about whiskey. Been talking about whiskey for about 90 minutes now, so we're going okay. I'm just finishing off what we poured earlier. Probably won't have any more tonight, but it was very enjoyable. So it's a good excuse to chit chat about the whiskey as well. So I've had a good time. You're only here for a few minutes. You made some jokes about Duolingo. And I'm going to rate them sound good? I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. I didn't. No, dude. Did I? Wait, I think I did. I think you gave me 1. I'm pretty sure I did try the 27. But then I never got back to drink the nicker from the barrel that you got. So I apologize. And now it's, you know, haven't been able to go anywhere, which is disappointing. Hopefully you guys will get to open up again when the world comes back. But, yeah, I very much meant to, so I feel bad about that. I don't ever think I tried the nicker that you got, but I feel like maybe I tried some of the 27. Actually so good. Though it's crazy how when you try like 27-year-old of an Isla whiskey like Lefroy, it tastes almost nothing like the other Isla whiskeys, right? Like it tastes not even like itself anymore. Because I know a lot of those distilleries use like the same new make spirits. So when we were talking about before some of the Japanese whiskeys, they make some different new makes out of different different stills and whatnot. I know a lot of the Isla ones are just this is the new make, and we just put it in barrels, and you know it goes as long as it goes. So it's crazy to think it's the same spirit that's in like a Lefroy 10 or something, and 27 years later it tastes crazy, nothing like it at all. So learn French or be thrown in a trench. Not anymore. Thanks for the top tips. Thanks for the top tips, Beast Mode. Great to have you here. Yeah. So, are you going to be opening up again? By the way, is Spawn Point hopefully soon? Because you were starting to get a really good collection of whiskey. I also finally found July. Okay, cool. Well, that's good news then. I also finally found what is the whiskey bar across from Spawn Point? Is it Baxter's? Yeah, okay. I finally found that. I honestly, I thought it was the bar across when you walk straight in, and then like on the left as you go down. I walked in, I'm like, this place is full of gin. This isn't a whiskey bar. And then I realized it was where I used to get my hair cut, and it was just the back of the hairdressers, the barbershop with a bar that apparently has Southern Hemisphere's largest collection of gin. And then later I found Baxter's. downstairs. Yeah, right. Yeah. There you go. Cigar Man, Dashcam, I'm not. But I'm not against cigars. I just don't have any. Though I kind of get the impression that they do go very well with whiskey. Obviously, you kind of need to match up, right, the type of cigar with the type of whiskey, maybe. But I think like the dryness, right, from the cigar, kind of matches up really well. So for me, no, I don't think I've ever had a cigar. Maybe once, but not anything good. So not anything worth really talking about, unfortunately. But what about you? Are you into cigars? Because I definitely know there are a lot of serious business whiskey drinkers who do smoke cigars, but it's just such another expensive hobby, right? Like if you're trying to keep them, you need to have like a humidifier or something to stop the leaves or whatever from drying out and whatnot. Yeah, it's super expensive. It's too much for me. So maybe for like special occasions, it's kind of cool. Like if you just go and you buy something. But even then, do people like smoke the same cigar over a period of time? Like is it, some of them aren't necessarily like one and done? Do you smoke it and then put it out, then try it later? Or how does that work? Am I wrong? Yeah, I don't know. But maybe one day. One over an hour or so with a few glasses. Yeah, I guess it depends. Like, if you're buying, like, those big, chunky, serious cigars, I'm not sure if they worked them through in one sitting or not. Yeah, right, okay. Well, it's definitely not my thing, but, yeah, look at that. No smoking inside, what's the face? Just whiskey only. With that great emote. Sorry. But yeah. I will set off the smoke alarm and then we'll get evacuated. Who would put a smoke alarm in a lodge? I don't even know. Fortunately, the fireplace hasn't set it off yet. But, you know, you got to be careful these days. All about safety. But yeah. I don't know. This, I think, not sure what else. Any other questions about whiskey? I think I know MJ and Arunga are drinking the Hibiki at the moment. I'm still working through my stuff. I'm very slowly, Mike, working through mine. I know that you aren't. Best value whiskey other than. Well, hello. There we go. Too many good questions. I don't even know. You should read my great article about whiskey that I wrote for Kotaku. The only thing about me with ever positive that will be on Kotaku. I'm joking. I don't even know. It's underneath here. You should read it. But I do think the green label's good. Monkey Shoulder's good. Naked Grouse, you can find it. You ordered a Lark Classic. That is really exciting, Boils. It is really good. No, you don't need ice for it at all. I would personally try and grab myself... what are they called? One of these sorts of... Like a Glencairn glass. They're the cheapest. They're like $10 a pop from Dan Murphy's. And they said like Glencairn at the bottom. And they're... Yeah, just like this. You pour it in 30 mils, sniff it, let it sit for a little bit, try it. If you don't like it the first time, leave it for a month. Like, put the cork back in, put it away, come back in a month and try it again, because it might taste a little bit different once it's had a little bit of time just to settle once you've opened it. But yeah, you don't need ice. I wouldn't have ice at all with a classic cask. Have we tried the Audi one? I bought... What did I buy? I bought the $100 30-year bottle. It was a 30-year Scotch, I think, that I bought that was okay for $99. It wasn't that great. And then they had like that $32, was it like an 8-year or a 12-year or something? And it was okay. But I would honestly, like, if you're going to spend 30 something dollars on 700 mils of whiskey, just buy Black Label. Unless you actually hate Black Label, then I guess don't buy Black Label. But yeah, they're definitely, like, you can try them. They're not bad value. They're just not amazing. Like, you don't go and get a 30-year bottle of whiskey from Audi for $100 and go, wow, that's the equivalent of something much, much better. Clutchy, hello. Welcome. So, yeah, they're not bad. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just, you can't even get them all the time. So, it's kind of like, yeah, but there are so many awards, right? Like, and that's the thing, that it's easy to win awards. I don't even know what it won. Like, did it, let's see if I can find it. It probably just won, like, silver or gold something. I can't type over my things. Let's have a look. So, yeah, it won gold, right? Which is not... It's a thing. So, the Highland Earl? Is that right? Audi took home 13 awards in the 2019 International Wine and Spirit Awards. Again, noting that there are a lot of Spirit Awards around the world. Earning an impressive score of 95 in the sherry cask finish, which is a good score, by the way, 95, and $43. The Glen Marnock. Which is there. So that's not a bad result. Audi's Highland Earl 8-year-old Scotch whiskey, which retails for just $34, came in second. Okay, but when it says it came in second place, I'm not sure what second place means. Second place for... cheap bottle of Audi whiskey taking out top prize at Melbourne International Spirits Competition. See, again, there's a lot of competitions to win awards at. It says it's $35 for 700 mils. Double gold is not bad, but it's also $35. And a bottle of Black Label is like, what, 40 or $43, and it wins best 12-year-old blended malt every year at something or other, which for me I just think is better value. Yeah, the fire's got to keep going. Fortunately, these are long burning logs, by the way, so they just keep going forever and ever and ever. Yeah, that's right, Fishy D. There's I'm not saying, like, it's cool that there's all these awards, and I'm sure they're all deserving of the thing, but there are many world's best whiskey X every year. So, it is what it is. But if it wins something, it's probably pretty good and probably worth giving a burl. It's just a matter of whether you have a limited amount of money to spend on whiskey. Do you buy that one that won the award, or do you buy a different one that won an award? Or you can go get the Whiskey Bible and take a look. Each year, they release a Whiskey Bible, which again is just one person's opinion, and check out what they've scored the previous year's best whiskies. But there's also a bunch of, like, there's thousands of whiskies in there, and you can go and compare them to each other. Clutchy says, question, I had a friend give me a bottle of Glenmorangie 10. I've never had it before. I don't know if it's good or not. I don't know if I've had Glenmorangie 10, but it's not bad. It's pretty popular. Let's have a look. Glenmorangie I think the Glenmorangie 10's not a bad whiskey for what it's worth. What does it say? Let me have a look at this is the 18. I don't have a shipping destination. The original is the flagship single malt Scotch whiskey from Glenmorangie Distillery in the Highlands. So Highlands, I always think are like kind of a little bit sweeter, but it's I would open it. It's perfectly nice. And if you talk about awards, gold, the Scotch single malt awards, International Wine Spirit Competition, 2017, 2014. Whatever that means, Master for Highlands and Islands up to 12 years, 2013. So perfectly good whiskey. I would open it and enjoy it. It was an engagement present. It's a nice present. Whiskey's expensive. I would enjoy it. It looks good. You should definitely open it and drink it. You'll probably get like 2 to 3 years. The more you drink in a bottle, the quicker it... Like, whiskey doesn't get better in the bottle. It doesn't age. It's not like wine. It ages in a cask. You put it in a bottle. It stops aging. It's done. That's it. So, you keep something, it does not get better. You open it. I always find you open it, and then it tastes better in, like, a month than it did when you first opened it. When, like, the air and stuff sort of comes together. I find that better. And it's normally good for, like, 18 months to 2 years, and it doesn't taste that different. And then... after 2 years, it starts to go down in quality. Like the alcohol seeps out through the cork and stuff, and it's one of those things as well where the more you've drunk, the more air is in the bottle, and the more air that's in the bottle, the quicker the whiskey goes bad. So you've only had a couple of nips out of it. It might last a little bit longer if you've got like 100 ml in the bottle of in the bottom of a 700 ml bottle. Then I would probably drink that pretty quickly. Yeah, I know the screen brightness from this second screen, right? When we go there, you can sort of, boom. That's a tricky one. I'm not sure what the best way to deal with that is. We'll work it out. Okay, Clutchy, drink it, man. It's nice whiskey. You'll enjoy it. And if it's too sweet for you, then you go, okay, well, I maybe on what is, you can see that it's a Highland whiskey, and you can have a look and find out what other whiskies you might enjoy instead. You can probably drink it neat or try it with ice. Have it both ways and see which way you like it more. Arunga says, I need to get on finishing the bottle of Altus here. There's none left yet, and that's my problem, Arunga. I have a lot of bottles of half-drunk whiskey, and I've tried to stop buying bottles until I slowly work my way through. Being in lockdown has certainly helped me start making my way through. But I used to, as I would... There's some that as I finish, I replace because I drink them a lot, like Ardbeg. As soon as it's gone, I'll replace it. But others I'm trying not to. I haven't tried it. Arunga, no. What's the deal? Where's it from? And I'm going to go ruin the aesthetic of my stream again. Is it Shivers? Right. Altus with a U. Altus with a U. Oh. There you go. So this is not a cheap bottle of whiskey. Obviously, so this is a blend, like the Hibiki was. And you can see, let's see, how does it say how old it is? Look at all these awards. No age statement. So I don't know how much this actually costs, because Master Malt, it's got a price here, but I'm gonna be honest, like, it doesn't always correctly reflect. So this is a no age statement. They don't say how old the whiskey is. but it's obviously clearly very expensive, which is kind of crazy, right, when you think about it. When so much of unfortunately, a whiskey's price or a whiskey's value is often based around like how old is this whiskey. So lots of awards, blended malt, even 2019 gold, which isn't like that you won, it just means that it's good. Looks like it's very sweet, rich honeyed with a kick of fiery cinnamon underneath, tin peaches, crumbly fudge. I wonder what's its right. I wonder what it's what type of casks it's in. I hear that's very good as well. Yeah, Chivas makes some great whiskey. It's all a little bit too sweet for me though. I don't mind it, but I certainly wouldn't get like the value, right? If I had one of those bottles, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much as your dad might, for example. So I kind of stay away from it to buy the ones that I like when I'm wasting money. But yeah, I think we're almost done, to be honest. It's almost 10 o'clock. I'm not one of those serious business live streamers that can go for 6 hours. But we did get a whole 6 subs. What a crazy time. Look at your Arunga there with your little fireplace. One day it's going to grow into a giant big fire. Just like mine. Where's my emotes? How do I even get there? Look at that. Look at this giant. It could be you one day with a giant fireplace. Roaring fire. Yeah. That could be... Look, see? It's over here on the left. Anyway. That could be you one day. Anyway, we're going to do this every week. I know this is kind of like a set, almost like formal format. I don't know if we're going to stick with it. But it was at least a way to start. So if you got feedback... feel free to ping me on Twitter or on Facebook if you got me. Even DM me, hit me up with like what you thought or what you do differently, or if the bits and pieces were boring, or we don't need to know all this shit. Yeah, we're just feeling it out, Arunga. We're just, you know, out here seeing how it goes. A couple of hours of content, and then hopefully maybe I'll get some other chatters on, get some people in like a Discord call or something. Down the track. I'm sure there's hopefully plenty of people who are keen to chat whiskey for an hour or two. Yeah, it's where we're at. So also going to stream some other stuff on the channel, so don't feel like you sub and you're going to get... I guess you get all those great emotes. But yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, that would be cool, man. I'm just, you know, we're just feeling it out. I'll reach out to different people and see if we get them on, but I just thought we'd start with some Suntory because I like it. Touch in there, yeah, sink or drink easy, mate. That's what it's all about. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it. I drank a lot. Well, not that much. I drank like 3 drinks, but still, it's a lot when you're talking. I probably should have water next time. That would be the responsible thing to do. But yeah, it's been fun. So I don't even know how to finish the show because you didn't unmute GSL. Thanks, MJ. I appreciate it, man. I don't know what... I've got that great same video to finish the show with, but it actually starts with me clicking the start button because I need to edit the video. So that's definitely less good. But if we can get past that, I might end it here and finish off with some more jazz and whatnot. And you can see the dumb start to my video of my thing. And then I'll make a proper video for next time. But other than that, we might... I really want to do some like talk show stuff. I don't know, I've got the set. So we'll probably hopefully do more than whiskey and do a few streams a week. And we see... I guess we'll see how we go. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Yeah, the set that's it, MJ. I don't know, man. I would love to get this to a point, right, where I can even do some casting again, maybe in here for some, some other stuff. Richie, good to see you still in here, mate. Raise a glass to you. Cheers, mate. Hope you're doing well. Hope the kids are doing well. Haven't had a chance to come down there since the world's ended, but I'm sure we should once everything opens back up again, I should come down and see you guys when I get some time. I was hoping we'd see you at IEM this year, but alas, that's not to be either. So, oh, thanks, man. Yeah, my server blade. Look, it's up there. It's got nothing to do with whiskey, and it's obviously got absolutely nothing to do with a lodge, but it's there nonetheless. But yeah, hopefully I can do some casting in here. I don't know. It's just themed. It's just a thing. Have a bit of fun. I like the look of it. It looks cool in my room. They're things that I like. I have a dumb brass-colored lamp now, and my stupid clock, and there's whiskey and a fake fire. It's all just things that I wanted. So, and it fits in with the things. So we'll see how we go. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. I am gonna play my dumb video where you see me click play and then walk out. And we'll change that for next week. And I'm just gonna leave some tunes on for a bit whilst we finish off. So thanks for opening up your bottles and having a drink and checking it out. And hopefully we can do this every week. And we'll see what it turns into. So yeah, thanks, guys.